Thank you
Hi,
everyone for
Isabel, over
joining
to
us
you.
today. Perfect. Thank you everyone for joining us today. It's actually great. I just checked the attendance list and I see some familiar names. So it's good to see you all again. So as Jacob said, my name is Isabel Walton. I am the Manager for Education in Ireland and Southeast Asia in the ASEAN region. And Education in Ireland is part of Enterprise Ireland, a state agency responsible for the promotion and the recruitment of students for third level institutions in Ireland. So we are the Irish government in effect. So today I'm just going to go over a few things with you regarding the COVID situation in Ireland, some of the concerns you might have for current or prospective students going forward, and just to kind of get you up to what's going on the ground there. Let me just, first off, Ireland is, as always, committed to providing you a world-class education system. Ireland is one of the best education systems in the world, which is, very good feat for a country, that is such a small population. We are one of the top 20 education systems in the world. All of our universities are in the top 5%, some of the top 1% in the world. In the QS rankings, all of our universities rose in the rankings again this year. So we were very happy about that. We are also one of the safest and friendliest countries in the world, regularly ranking in the top 5 or top 10 in those countries. So it is a very safe, welcoming environment for your students in Ireland. And with this COVID situation, we know it's providing a lot of anxiety for students and for parents. And we just want you to know that of course, we are open for international students, and that once they get there, we will take care of them. Providing for our international students has been one of the key pillars of the COVID response by the government and by the universities and colleges. So the current situation in Ireland is actually drastically improving. In fact, we had set out 5 key phases for reopening our economy after we went into lockdown in March. That has now been changed to 4 phases, and everything has been moved up because it is mostly under control in Ireland. So last week, businesses began to reopen again. Travel was allowed within the country. There is still a 14-day quarantine period for people entering the country, and that's being evaluated as we go along. So our process has been very consistent, scientific, science and evidence based, to tackling this crisis, and there has been a lot of kind of ground support to get this under control. There have been travel and social distancing restrictions. At the moment, they have been let up a bit, but people being able to meet people outside their households, being able to go. As of next week, they will be able to go to restaurants and pubs for the first time in small groups. So it is, we are reopening at a steady pace, but keeping in mind that the safety of the public is always paramount in these. At the moment, all of our universities and college campuses are closed to students. The original date set in the plan was for them to open in phase 5, which was August 10th. That has now been moved forward, and the universities and colleges will now be able to reopen in mid-July. So they will be able to welcome students onto their campus in mid-July. So for current students, the health and safety of the students has been the top priority. The colleges shut down in March, as I said, and everything was moved online at that stage. These universities were already well placed to deliver their lectures online, which many of them, already investing, such as DCU, in a lot of virtual learning technology over the last couple of years. So it was a rather seamless transition for a lot of schools. The exams have all now been taken, successfully done online as well and through digital platforms. And they have been as flexible as possible, returning students, to come back, whether if they defer or they need to, return their deposits and fees for the coming year. That has been accepted as, if the student doesn't want to come back to Ireland for 1 year, they have been allowed to defer their 3rd or 4th year or whatever it is. So we are being very flexible with returning students. Also for international students, the government waived healthcare costs with regards to COVID. They were not, and hopefully and they do not get sick, they will have no medical bill at the end of that. They will be treated for free by the Irish government and the Irish healthcare system. Other incentives that we have put in place for our international students is that any student who lost their job, because in Ireland students can work, so part-time during semester, full-time during their holidays. So any student that lost that job, international student that lost that job, was entitled to the COVID pandemic unemployment payment from the government, just like any Irish citizen. And that was €350 a week. So, you know, they were very well taken care of financially. Also, in terms of visas were extended, all the visas went online, so that should mean, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But you know, we have really put a priority on taking care of the students. From talking to the HEIs, other incentives that have been put into place of, you know, loaning out of laptops for students who didn't have access to laptops, setting up pop-up shops on campus, so students who were living on campus and didn't return to their home countries, didn't have to leave the campus to buy groceries, counselling services being available to them virtually online, group WhatsApp, coffee mornings to check in on them, and they have been really engaged with our international student population. For those who returned home as well, that was the same. All services were still available to them, whether it be counselling, the international office, their lecturers. And we're glad to say that all students now have completed the semester and will be moving on or graduating over the summer. For the start dates and options, you'll need to talk to the individual HEIs, and I'll talk a little bit more about the delay in the semester in the next slide. So as I said earlier, at the moment there are travel restrictions and social distancing under constant review. So for incoming students this year, there is still a 14-day quarantine in place. Now, I saw a question on the chat regarding how can a student who doesn't have any friends or family in the country support themselves during that 14-day period, and the answer is the international offices are helping students. So that comes in many different ways. Most of them are organising airport pickups to bring them to their residence where they will take, you know, the 14-day quarantine. They're arranging food deliveries, counselling services during that time, orientation videos and virtual chats so that they don't feel alone. So they really are taking care of the students, and a lot of them are actually providing the accommodation for them to quarantine as well. And others are providing basically that they would do their 14-day quarantine during, you know, orientation week, which would be a virtual week for them, so that they don't have to come into the country earlier than planned or spend money that they didn't have to. So we are really kind of worrying about students, you know, especially if they're first time away from home, that we do provide services for them to make sure that they're okay. 14 days, you know, alone can be difficult. I'm on 14 weeks at this stage in Singapore, so I understand how lonely it can be, and, you know, some of the strains on students. Apologies. Hay fever. So we are taking care of students in that way, and any student who has any concerns, please do talk to the international officers. They are available at all times to talk to students and prospective students about the process and about how to make it easier for them. For the application processes, they are still open. We are accepting applications for the September 2020-21. In fact, most of the colleges and university have extended their application dates for most courses until the end of this month. So please do check with the international offices for the specific dates for courses and applications. Also, good news, the visa offices are reopening. They had been closed in March, as I'm sure all of you are aware, due to the crisis across the region, but they will be opening on the 22nd of June, and they are working with applicants who may have put in an application. Most of you will know that if you were in that position, that the students and agents were advised to withdraw the application and to resubmit. In that case, there will be no fee for the application. You will not have to pay a second time for that visa application. They will just process it as a new application with no fee. If you have any questions on the visa processes, please do contact the embassies in the region. They're dedicated to work very closely with agents, and they are prioritising student visas in the region. And of course, for the ASEAN region now, we now have our delegated sanctioned visa officers in the region for the next 2 years, a further 2 years. So that's in Bangkok, Singapore, Vietnam. All of the visas will be processed in those countries and will not have to be sent back to Ireland. So that should also not only cut down the waiting time, but allow you to work much more closely with the person who is processing your visas if they have any questions, or if you need to submit extra documents. They do encourage you to just, give them a call if you have any problems, if you're unsure about something. They want to get these visas over the line as soon as possible for both yourselves and themselves, and so they are really working with you. In terms of face-to-face programs for students going to Ireland, semester 1, which is September to December, is likely to be blended for incoming students. So that means it's going to be either part physical, part virtual. The student safety is the #1 priority, and at the moment we don't see a scenario where having a lecture room full of 300 students is advisable. So those bigger lectures will be moved online, but there will be some in-campus classes and tutorials and workshops as well, especially for the more practical subjects where they may need lab work. Social distancing measures will be put into place to protect the students. So it'll mix of both. Each college has its own particular plan for that. And we do, if you need any details, I actually have a lot of the plans already from the universities. I can share them with you if you just want to get in touch with me. For the students who are unsure at the moment whether or not they want to travel or whether or not they can travel, the universities have committed themselves to either let students defer or fully refund their fees for incoming new students if they are not able to travel. We recognise this is not the students' fault. This is, a global problem that nobody foresaw. So if a student doesn't want to travel or can't travel, the HEIs will refund the fees, either deposit or full fees. So we want to take that burden off the students at the moment. If their situation changes and they can't travel, then that is perfectly okay with us, and we will be very understanding of that. So as I said, for immigration and visa applications, the Irish residence permit for students currently in Ireland whose residence permit was going to expire between March and May 2020, the government has made a decision to just automatically renew all those visas. They'll be renewed for another 3 months, and that will be reviewed as the situation goes on. We didn't want to put students under pressure to leave the country or feel like they had to go to the visa offices to renew. They were just automatically renewed. It's very hard to social distance in a visa office. So, it was just, the decision was made to just take the pressure off the international students and renew their visas automatically. As I said, the visa offices and application centres will be opening on June 22nd. So take this time to, get your applications in order. If you have any questions, do let them know. And all applications for graduate programs can now be submitted online as well. And in addition to that, to make, obviously test centres with regards, a lot of students will require English language tests to go with their visas and their language applications. Ireland has made the decision to accept a wider range of tests. So, for example, we are now accepting the Duolingo online test in place of IELTS or TOEFL or any test like that. And we've also extended the validity of the IELTS test for students to 3 years, meaning that, before it was 2 years, if they'd taken a test 3 years ago, we will still accept those test results for visa purposes. So it just takes the pressure off the students to get an updated, test or go to a test centre that may not be open or may, have maybe safe distancing issues with going to one of those test centres. For academic results for applications, we realise that across the world, most schools and education systems have been shut down for a period of time or are still shut down. So students, test results will be delayed. That was the same in Ireland for quite some time. We were planning on delaying our school leaving exams, the Leaving Cert. Now we have just cancelled it, and then we've moved to a predictive grade scheme. But because of the worldwide implications of that, we have delayed the start dates of our semesters in Ireland. Normally we would have started at late August, early September. That is now moved to late September, early October, just to give that little bit of leeway for students. They can also, for the offers, of course, until their full offer, they need their test results. That can be submitted. The final transcripts can be submitted to the colleges right up until this time the student arrives in campus. So we are extending that period for when they can submit their final documents. And so to make it easier for them, so in case your national exams have been postponed. We are also considering a larger variety of options for students affected by the cancellations of the SAT and ACTs. And the schools will have that up on their websites on what they are now accepting, whether it be GPAs at that stage or last year's exams. They have a variety of different acceptance levels at the different colleges. So please do check with the international offices on what their university and college is accepting this year. And that is pretty much me. So if there's any questions, I can now answer them.